Biden is in the Big Apple for a fundraising extravaganza. He's right across the street at Radio City Music Hall for a star-studded event. But of course, Biden can't be counted on to raise the money by himself, so his campaign is calling in Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. The trio will cozy up to celebrities and participate in a hard-hitting interview with Stephen Colbert. They'll also enjoy musical performances by Queen Latifah and Lizzo. Tickets cost up to $500,000 each, making it the most lucrative political fundraiser in U.S. history. Obama's major show of support coming after reports that he's been frantically calling Biden's staff, fearing a Trump rematch. An aide telling The Times Obama has always worried about a Biden loss and that Obama is prepared to, quote, eke it out alongside Biden on the campaign trail. All right, Jesse, I'll start with you. You got the Three Stooges, Bubba, Barry, and Clueless Joe. They have to come in to raise money because Clueless Joe can't do it himself, can he?
I'm not going to knock a politician for raising money, but Joe needs help, and these two are there to save the campaign. He is the establishment candidate. You're going to have a lot of corporate people donating a lot of money. He's not very smart. You can tell Joe Biden what to do. He opens the borders for the cheap later, and he keeps the national security state paid. But Donald Trump is just pivoting off of this primary, so there's going to be a little low fundraising flow now, but it'll ramp back up. They have a big event next week, so that's going to be fine. But it does help when you have $3.5 billion coming in out of the middle of nowhere. So I'm not worried, and he has tons of earned media. But what I am concerned about is where the Republicans invest the money, Judge.
Yeah.
They now have, 6 weeks of voting in some of these states? So the Democrats are going to be out there harvesting, going to nursing homes and high-rises and tenements and just gobbling up all of these mail-in ballots. And that's the game now. It's not about persuasion. It's about mobilization. So the Republicans need to get in early, figure it out, and execute, because we know how important early voting is now.
You know, Dana, it's interesting, Obama jumping in, to make sure that Biden, gets the money that he needs, in spite of the tension between the two campaigns, in spite of the fact that, Biden was saying as recently as a couple weeks ago that Obama's jealous and all that stuff. Is Obama jumping in more about getting Biden elected or about defeating Trump?
Defeating Trump and also trying to resurrect his own legacy, because President Trump really dismantled a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of things during his first 4 years. President Obama doesn't want that to happen, and I think he does take this personally. I also think that he thinks that it's his responsibility to try to help, because Joe is not doing as well as he needs to do. I think that you'll always see this, right? The Democrats have New York and Hollywood entertainment that will come and do this for them. At Trump's events, Trump is the entertainment. You don't have to rely on that, so that people actually show up to see him. Tonight, they're coming to see Obama, maybe some of the others, Lizzo and entertainment, but Obama, to me, is still the draw for the Democrats. I imagine that even if Joe said, tell you what, let's go to Long Island and visit the Diller family instead, his staff would be like, can we stay behind and see Obama, because we really miss him. I also understand this, that Biden really wants to have a great fundraising quarter in that first quarter. And his FEC, the Federal Election Campaign Report, it's due soon, and he's going to get a big number. It will be bigger than Trump's, and he will get all of the headlines that come with it. And it will probably come along with a Bloomberg poll that says, oh, wow, look, Biden's doing really great. That's funny.
Cite one article.
That's a callback from yesterday. But I think that the truth remains that a lot of the accomplishments Biden will talk about tonight are actually his largest vulnerabilities. Number one is all the spending that led to inflation.
Well, speaking of those accomplishments, Jessica, a recent poll showed that Joe Biden, in his most popular number, is for doing nothing, 38%. For the economy and inflation, 19%. Not being Trump, 6%. Student debt, 6%. Infrastructure, 6%. And nothing is 38%. That's pretty good.
Got work to do. Good thing that we have 8 months and able to get it done. And he's been out crisscrossing the country talking about what he has done. I'm not going to pretend that everything is calm and beautiful, and I think if the election was held today, that it would be a landslide. This is a dead heat race, and it's going to be a dead heat race on November 5th as well. I mean, these elections are decided by tens of thousands of people in a few key states, and that's it. But the idea that Joe Biden is struggling to raise money is ludicrous. The man had a $10 million haul in the 24 hours after the State of the Union. He had the largest fundraising month on record in February. The RNC is in complete tatters. The DNC is cruising. And anyone in their right mind would give almost anything to be able to raise $25 million in one night. And it's custom for previous presidents to campaign with the new presidents of their own party. No one made fun of Barack Obama when he said, Bill Clinton is my explainer in chief. I can't connect with people in kind of a folksy way, so I need Bill Clinton to come with me and to explain my policies this way. And then Obama obviously campaigned for Hillary Clinton, who didn't win the race, but for Joe Biden, and Bill Clinton was out there for him too. This is what you do, and there is a common enemy, and the enemy is whoever is at the top of the Republican ticket, and that is a shared mission. But you know, Donald Trump will get his money out of the SPAC for sure, but you have this contrast of someone who is selling out events like this, which by the way has tickets that go for $200. It's not all $500,000. And Donald Trump is on, you know, doing ads hawking $60 Bibles. He's siphoning off donor money to pay for his legal fees. It's a pretty stark contrast of what's going on here. And that, again, to return to where I started, that doesn't mean that Joe Biden is definitely going to win this race. But you look at the money, and
you arrested him. He does need to pay lawyers.
Yep.
We didn't arrest him.
Yeah, you did.
Yes, you did.
We did.
Okay.
Well, you said
Greg.
his mugshot is the most powerful, positive piece of campaign.
Greg, do you think that the Americans people are more impressed with the money that Jessica's talking about they're raising, or more impressed with the president who goes to honor and respect a fallen police officer?
I look at the fundraiser, and it reminds me of Live Aid, right? Except instead of trying to save a starving nation, they're trying to save a starving presidency. And they got, you know, he's got Clinton and Obama. One guy's a dog, the other one ate a dog. I don't think you've ever seen a more perfect example of the sparkling, obscenely aloof elites in one spot in your life. These people are so far removed from the price of things at a supermarket or what it's like to ride a subway. They're a collection of overrated elites who have actually done really well dividing this country as they jet from Davos to Aspen and Aspen to Davos. So you see, and Jessica's laid out it in a stark contrast. It's, as she said, look at the money. So you see the game here. It's about them raising money while draining Trump of all his money and then boasting about it. See, he's got to pay for his lawyers. See how it's working? And you know, they're not going to elect a felon. That was the strategy. It's not about policies or people. It's about a financial advantage and winning at any way possible. Meanwhile, you got Colbert has morphed into a full-on shill. Remember, he was dancing for pharmaceuticals. Oh, yeah. Now he's dancing for a leader who's on pharmaceuticals. I don't think Fox would allow me to do that.
No.
I don't think Fox would say, you know, I don't think you should be holding a fundraiser for the Republican candidate. In 10 minutes, I'd be doing a podcast with Don Lemon.
Okay.
You'd crush him, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.